Hey everybody, welcome back to Dental Unfiltered. I'm Matt Brown, and we're here with my normal co-host, Dr. Andrew Vallo. Today we have a really interesting episode for you. Andrew got an email with a question from a listener about call center ROI. And this call centers is something we've talked about for years, and whether it's for booking appointments during the day or after hours, I just feel like call centers are a massive mistake to not have. So Andrew got this question about call center ROI, and Andrew's going to start off with reading the email, and let's talk about this question. So, Dr. Vallo, call center ROI. I know you're a big proponent, a big advocate of call centers. You're a heavy user. Let's dig into this question the listener had.
Yeah, I think this is going to be fun today, guys. I get a lot of emails with questions, and I always do my best to respond. Again, sometimes it takes me a while, but this was actually interesting because I saw this email come in, and like immediately I was like, this is actually a good thing to talk about on the podcast. So I responded immediately. I said, hey, it's a great question. Short answer, I've looked into this, and yes, it has absolutely been worth it for me to keep a call center. But I said, I'm actually going to do a mini podcast episode, and I'm going to go into detail with my answer here. The listener, was pumped about it, and I asked, like, hey, do you mind if I use your name and read your email? Yeah, absolutely, go ahead. So I think this is going to be a cool episode. To Matt's point, I am really a huge proponent of using a call center as a dental office, and like to the point where I was at a recent mastermind meeting, and we do these hot seats, and I was in Mark Costa's group, so my buddy Mark is kind of leading it, and at this point I have been in this group for a long time, and like I was actually there more to just kind of hang out and see people and give some advice, and like I didn't even like do my own hot seat that time. But I was trying to help Mark help give advice to, other dentists. And it felt like there was a theme that day where almost every dentist in this hot seat had some issue revolving around front desk personnel, phone calls, whatever it was, turnover, employees that needed to be terminated potentially. And almost every single case, like I felt like one of my piece of advice was, you should use a call center. Like, why aren't you using a call center yet? And as we, like, it almost became like a joke because like, as we're going through, like, everyone gets their turn, everyone gets their like 20 minutes on the hot seat to talk about what's going on. And as we got through the day, it's over 2 days. So as we got near the end of the event on the second day, it was like, people were almost like laughing when I would be like, call center?
Is this an indicator that a lot of problems are front desk based?
Yeah, I think so. And actually, like, it was an indicator to me that a lot less highly successful dentists and, in this mastermind. A lot of the dentists in this mastermind group are very, very successful, and many of them have multiple practices or large practices. But it was an indication to me that actually less dentists in this mastermind group, like the people that I would think would already be using these outsourced resources that are available, less of them were using call centers than I had expected. But like, I actually had to like point out, I was like, listen guys, I want to throw it out there. I have no involvement in the call center I use. I get no kickbacks from them. I have no investment in them. Like, this is just me truly believing in the ROI I've gotten here. So like, that was funny. And then, fast forward a couple months and I get this email, which I'm about to read. And then we're going to dissect here today. So this email is from Dr. Jed Laundry, and Jed says, hi, Andrew. Here's a question I can't reason my way out of, and you're the one person who can answer it from real experience. At your new patient volumes, Golden Goose has to be one of your bigger monthly line items. It's sizable. I don't know if I would say it's near the top, but yeah, we do spend a fair amount on call center. I price their plans at $0 monthly plus $69 per new patient that shows up, or $397 monthly plus $49 per new patient that shows up. So I will say, in the middle of this caveat, I have been using Golden Goose for the last 5+ years, ever since I opened my first startup. I got grandfathered in at pricing that was a little bit lower than it is today. Just like everything else, inflation pricing has gone up a little bit for them. And with my volume, I now use them for 11 offices, soon to be 14. I've actually negotiated like preferred pricing beyond that. So, I will say that, they've been awesome they've been an awesome partner to work with. I've given them shout outs. They have helped me out some with the volume pricing. So I do get a little bit better pricing than that. That said, we do see a lot of new patients. We do pay per new patient that shows up that was booked through the call center. So it is still a fairly sizable monthly expense for us for sure, 100%. Anyways, Jed said, I'd priced it, say 100 new patients in a month. That's somewhere around 5,000 to 7,000. Again, for us, it's going to be a little bit lower than that. A remote employee through a company called Reach. Familiar with Reach? They're awesome too. I think you had Corey Pinniger on here recently, Matt.
Yeah, Corey's a great guy.
Yeah, and Reach is great. And, so VA is a great option in general, but we'll get into that in a minute. So a remote employee through a company called Reach runs about $12 an hour. So even at 48 hours a week of coverage, that's roughly $2,500 a month flat, regardless of how many patients come in. On paper, the more new patients you capture, the more Golden Goose costs you, the bigger that gap gets. So you're knowingly paying a premium that grows with success, which tells me Golden Goose is doing something a trained remote person can't. Okay, that's part of the answer here. That's the part I want to understand. Before I build this for my own practice, what is actually buying you at scale? Is it the conversion and the show rate? Yes. Is it the reliability? Yes. Is it not having to manage and train people? Yes. Is it the after hours coverage? Yes. Or is it something else entirely? Yes. So, again, I think he kind of answered his own question in a sense. There are a lot of benefits to using a well-trained dental-specific call center versus your own in-office employee or a remote employee. And have you ever run a cheaper remote setup head-to-head against it? I have priced it out. I have not tried it because I knew deep down in my CEO gut that it was not a good decision for me to do that. At one location to see if the numbers held up in real life. I'd rather learn from your 11 plus practices than test it the expensive way on my own. Thank you. So Jed, again, thank you for the email, man. I think we're already kind of getting into some of the answers, but I'm going to go into more detail for sure. So, let's throw out the fact that I'm a long-term customer and I have volume pricing and all that. Let's assume that, I am a single office dentist going to Golden Goose and pricing this out like Jed did. And let's say it does cost somewhere in the ballpark. I haven't checked his math, but let's say that's accurate and it's somewhere in the ballpark of 5,000 to 7,000 a month. And let's say you priced out a VA remote employee and it could be 2,500 a month for 48 hours of coverage. Let's just start at the beginning. And a few things to keep in mind here. You hire one VA employee. Let's assume that they're very well trained. They're trained on, the principles of persuasion. They're motivated to help book employees. They get bonus based on how many, or book new patients. They get bonus on how many new patients they make. They're going to have a high close rate. Let's assume all that stuff's equal, which we already know it's not, but we'll get into that some more too. Let's assume all that's equal, and they're working full time for you. Just keep in mind, guys, this is one person answering the phones. Do you think your office ever gets more than one phone call at a time? Do you think your office is ever on the phone with a new patient for 15, 20 minutes answering a whole bunch of questions and other people may be trying to call at that same time? So in my mind, if you were going to run like a VA setup or kind of doing your own version of a call center, I think you'd have to hire a minimum of 2 full-time people. So you hire 2, now we're at $5,000. Now that gap is essentially closed. And even at 2, the nice thing about Golden Goose is they're going to give you as many employees as your office needs. So, the faster you grow, the more you need, whatever, they're going to give you more. They're going to make sure that the phone's being answered because they track that answer rate. And they want that phone answer rate during, hours that they're actually answering the phone. They want that to be 95% plus. And for us, most months it is. It is up there in the upper 90s. So, if they're seeing, hey, only 80% of phone calls are getting answered, they're going to provide more coverage from more phone agents to make sure that your phone gets answered. If you've got one full-time VA, it's not easy to all of a sudden just provide some extra coverage there. So that's the first part of that question. I want to get into some of his other, where he kind of answered some of his own questions here. So is it the conversion and show rate? So again, Chris Phelps, founded Golden Goose, Dr. Chris Phelps. Gotten to know him fairly well over the years, virtually. I've met him in person, I think once or twice at some events, but I don't know him that well, other than we've chatted via email and things like that. I've listened to him on podcasts. He was actually one of my kind of role models when I set out to be a dental entrepreneur. I thought he was a genius when it came to marketing, advertising, when it came to treatment presentation, when it came to implementing Cialdini's principles of persuasion. And so the fact that he went out there to found a dental-specific call center and set up the training for these agents to help make sure that they are best equipped to help the potential patient become an actual patient, I knew that they were going to have high conversion rate, and it's shown. Over all my offices over the years, the phone conversion rate of leads to new patient booked appointments is very high. I personally don't think I could train someone better than they train their call center agents to book new patients. And even if I tried, it would take a lot of time and effort. And guys, we only have so much bandwidth. So if I feel like someone out there has already done a really good job figuring out the training of these dental call center agents to convert new patient leads, and I know that the likelihood of me training someone better is low, and the amount of effort for me to try to come up with a training program and train the people is high, what motivation do I have to try to go out there and do it better myself? And the answer is I don't. I really don't have any motivation to do that. The show rate, I don't know how much it affects show rate. I mean, obviously, Golden Goose wants the patients to show up because that's how they get paid. They don't get paid if they book a lead and the patient doesn't show up. And I'm sure that maybe there's a small factor of that with how they kind of, end the conversation and, talk about, respecting the time of the appointment. I think the show rate comes down more to your own practices, cancellation policies, reminder policies. And, we've done podcast episodes about that, so I'm not going to get into much detail. I don't think they provide a huge advantage there, although I'm sure they're doing some things to try to help encourage that patient to show up. I think it's more important what you do as the practice owner. Reliability. Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. Now, I will say, because we do use VAs, we don't use them as the primary source of answering new patient phone calls to book new patients. We do have them call patients. We do have them answer the phone sometimes as backup. And I will say our VAs are very reliable compared to, the average in-person employee. So I don't know that there's that much more of a reliability standpoint, but at the same time, VAs are still human. VAs still have internet outages, especially in some of these foreign countries, because we've dealt with that from time to time. VAs can still get sick. VAs can still quit. Now, again, super low turnover because, technically speaking, usually this is a very good job opportunity for them. But they can. They can still quit, or they can end up not being, the right fit, and you have to replace them. Versus you outsource to a company. If that phone agent quits, it's the company's responsibility to replace them. It's not yours. So yes, I do think reliability is part of it. Not having to manage and train people, we've already talked about that. Yes, if I think someone is doing as good or a better job than I can do managing and training a call center team member, why would I want to take that upon myself? After hours coverage, yeah, absolutely. So, you talked about 48 hours. That's great. I think we got Golden Goose answering the phones something like 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. So, that's 11 hours a day times 5. That's 55 hours right there. And Saturdays, 9 to 3. So that's another, 6 hours? That's 61 hours. So you compare an average, when you hire a VA, you're technically hiring them for 40 hours a week, not 48. But could you pay some extra overtime? Sure. But you're comparing 40-hour full-time employee to 61 hours. That's 21 hours of extra coverage. And you better believe the phones do ring sometimes during those earlier morning and the evening hours, and on Saturdays when a lot of our practices aren't always open. So anyways, Matt, I'm gonna stop here for a second. I feel like I've kind of answered Jed's question, but I'll kind of round it out at the end. But I want to give you a chance to jump in with any thoughts.
I love VAs, and Corey and the guys over there are people I know really well, and John, and there's a place for VAs. Part of the reason why you want to do this is to augment the front desk. And when you do a VA, you're really just getting a front desk person that you can't influence in person somewhere else. Like, you're really not solving the problem. What's good about the call center is these individuals have so many reps, and then there's redundancy because there's so many, aside from getting so many repetitions on phone calls, there's redundancy on a standard of individuals there's a pool of that if one falls, you never know, to be honest. Like, you don't know how many employees Golden Goose has gone through. Like, that's not a problem. I don't think this is a good use for a VA. I think with that, you're just swapping one employee for another.
Yeah, and so again, I'm a big believer in VAs. We just hired our, I think, 5th and 6th. So we've got a half dozen VAs we use. And I've talked in other episodes what we use them for. And I think in that role, they are absolutely fantastic. Very appreciative to have them. However, I think the phone is still the most important piece of technology in a dental office. And I think the person answering the phone is still one of the most important roles in the dental office. So, again, let's put this a different way. We already kind of dispelled the fact of saving money hiring VAs versus outsourcing the call center. Even at, if you're not getting discount rates like or volume rates like I am, again, in my mind, if you're going to try to do this VA route, you got to hire at least 2 full-time VAs to be the phone answerers in your office. Maybe you stagger them a little bit. But I think at most during busy hours, you probably want at least 2 people that can answer the phone. And we know at that point in time, there's not really going to be a whole much cost difference between outsourcing versus having the VAs. But let's even say let's say, you got a high volume of new patients and you're paying a little more. And let's say there's still a $2,000 extra monthly difference. Let's say that call center answers and converts 1 more new patient per month than the VA. And let's say that 1 new patient comes in and needs 1 crown and 2 fillings and decides, they're finally ready to take the Invisalign plunge. How many dollars would you have lost out on had you used the inferior phone answering system to save $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever it is? How many production dollars would you have lost out on by missing that 1 patient? A lot. I mean, I guess it depends on what your fees are, but thousands of dollars.
That's only using 1 as an example. It's only 1.
I would bet anything that if you use, now again, all call centers are not created equal. I've only used Golden Goose. I can't speak to other call centers. I do think having a dental specific call center where agents are bonus based on, I think patients showing up is huge. I truly believe that Golden Goose does as good or better than I could potentially do with any of my own employees getting patients to book appointments. They answer the phone more with extended hours. They're reliable. So I 100% believe that I get more new patients in all of my practices because I've outsourced to Golden Goose our new patient phone calls for the last 5 years than if I had done any other method. And I don't think it's 1 extra new patient a month. I think it's 10s. I mean, our office is 125, 150, 200 new patients. Our brand new office in Venice saw over 200 new patients in its first month open. Did $242,000 in collections its first month open. Do I think those numbers would have happened if I didn't outsource our new patient phone calls to a call center that knew what they were doing? Did I spend any extra money than if I had had a VA answering the phone? Yeah, maybe. Maybe still a little bit, maybe, probably not. But even if I did, like, the ROI is just killer. So I don't want to beat a dead horse here, guys. Again, I have no involvement in Golden Goose. I get no kickbacks from them. Chris, if you're listening, I'm sure I'll send Chris this episode because he'll probably get a kick out of it. But Chris, if you're listening and you want to thank me, I know you're a big wine enthusiast. You can send me a nice bottle of wine. That would be cool. But otherwise, guys, I speak of companies that I have used that have been helpful to my practice, and Golden Goose is up there near the top. So obviously, I love Energize, Matt's company that I've used for marketing for the last 5 years as well, basically now. So there's a couple companies that I have used throughout the time that I've been a dental practice owner that have really helped my offices grow. And I would put Golden Goose up there near the top. And that's why, even though I have looked into, the potential to in-house, and again, with scale, does it make more sense? Maybe. At 11 offices, now again, because of that, I'm getting the volume pricing. But like at 11 offices, how expensive would it be for me to create my own call center of VAs where I have so many VAs to cover, all the offices? And could it maybe be a little more economical? Maybe. Like maybe it could at this point actually save me a little bit of money. But how much of a hassle would it be? How much of my bandwidth would it take to do that? And how many new patients would I potentially be missing out on if I didn't absolutely nail the training and the onboarding and the number of VAs and the hours and all that stuff? And then I've got to track the data every single month and manage it. No, thank you. I would rather focus on other opportunities to grow revenue in my practice, and I'm not going to mess with a good thing that's helped me grow over the years. So
I think it's a dumb thing to not have it.
I hope I answered your question here. If you have any other follow-ups on this, or you want some more clarity, send me another email. But I hope that kind of gives you some clarity about why I've kept the call center and why it could potentially be a good fit for you.
I think it's a mistake not to have it. From a marketer's point of view, the data I see, my practices that have something like that, for at least for after hours, do better. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. We don't make any money off of this. Dental Unfiltered has no revenue. Please think, like, share, subscribe, follow, leave us a review. We do read the reviews, and the reviews really matter to us. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.